Welcome to today's edition of Great English Victories, the show where the English win in the end. Today we're going to talk about the famous Battle of Agincourt. As you may know from Shakespeare's play, in 1415, King Henry V was at war with France. Now, by rights, Henry was King of France through his great-grandfather Edward III, but the French, typically, had weaseled out of it by claiming that under Salic law, he couldn't inherit through female lines. Of course, that's not what Salic law said. It only said that women couldn't become King of France. So, after fruitless negotiations with the French, who couldn't be trusted in any event, Henry took an army to the continent. Now, the war did not go spectacularly well. And it is worth noting that many English wars have not gone spectacularly well at first. World War I did not go spectacularly well at first, with the Germans pushing deep into France before they could be stopped at the Marne. But the English always win in the end. But I'm getting ahead of myself. In 1415, Henry V got off to rather a late start, only sailing to the continent in August. He besieged Harfleur, which held out longer than expected, only surrendering on the 22nd of September. There wasn't much time left in the campaign season before all of the continent got wet and cold and muddy. And in those days, everyone wanted to be home in time for the harvest. So on October 8th, Henry decided to raid across France towards his fortress of Calais. He wanted to demonstrate his ownership of the French coast, of which he was the rightful feudal liege. Now, the French were afraid to bring him to battle, so they kept on the other side of the River Somme, the future site of one of the greatest English victories of World War I. By doing so, they prevented him from crossing. But finally, Henry maneuvered his troops across the Somme and headed for Calais. For days, the French refused battle, even though they outnumbered the English. No doubt they were afraid of Henry's brave English soldiers, even though they were fighting on their home territory. They played for time and pretended to negotiate, but they were blocking King Henry's way home. Finally, the two armies camped nearby each other, near the fortress of Agincourt. Even though Henry was outnumbered 6-1, he ordered his troops into battle the following day, on St. Crispin's Day, October 25th, 1415. I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tomorrow night, I'll tell you all about how the brave English won the Battle of Agincourt. Last night, I was telling you how King Henry V and his 5,000 doughty yeomen found themselves at the bottom of a hill, facing 30,000 armored French knights. The English were arrayed at the bottom of the hill. Now, you'd think that would be very dangerous with so many French cavalry at the top of the hill. But the French spent most of the morning not attacking. I imagine they were probably having croissants and combing their hair. So Henry advanced. Imagine lowly yeoman archers advancing on armored cavalry. They moved into range and set up their stakes in the ground and proceeded to torment the French with arrows. Finally, the French lined up and charged down the hill. They expected to just sweep Henry's troops away. But instead, they ran into a deadly hailstorm of sharp English arrows. These bodkin arrows could pierce armor. Rank after rank of noble Frenchmen spurred their horses down the muddy hill, and each rank was torn apart by English arrows. The last rank could barely get down the hill, for their horses had so churned up the mud that they were wallowing in it. After they ran out of knights, the French did what they do best. They surrendered. Agincourt is one of the greatest English victories. Outnumbered and trapped, the English outfought 6 times their numbers and made it back home. The final peace treaty, years later, made Henry's son, Henry VI, the king not only of England, but France too. So you see, the English always win in the end. No matter how dark it looks, we muddle on through until, with fortitude and bravery, we turn the situation around. I know members of the Home Army are listening in. You are our heroes. And I know that you'll not only protect us from any future invasions by foreigners, but when the time is right, you'll take the battle to the enemy. I salute you, Home Army soldiers. You are true English stock. And I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time. Tune in again tomorrow night when we look at the Napoleonic Wars and their climax at the great English victory at Waterloo.